What is going on, guys? It's your boy Lethal TV, and I'm back with another video today showing you how the GTX 980 performs within late 2017. Now, with this card being similar price wise compared to 1060s 480s at retail, this is still a very good option for those looking for a budget card that still packs a punch. Now, as you all know from the mining boom, prices of 1060s, 480s, 580s cards, mid-range cards have gone very much up in price, which is why this 980 is still relevant today. Now, as some of you may have heard, the actual 980 is similar performing to a GTX 1060, and these results should reflect that. Now, price wise, you can get this for around $250, sometimes less depending on where you get it. As you can see here, I'm going to put eBay on screen and just scroll down, let you see some of the prices it can be had for. Sometimes you can get them as low as 200, sometimes they're as high as 250. Now, if you're in the UK like me, you can still get this card for a very cheap price, around £200. And what that will get you is a 4GB GTX 980 of any model really. So there are a mixture of models, as you can see eBay here. As well as eBay, you can get them on some sites such as WeBuy.com. Now, I personally picked this up from WeBuy.com for £195. However, you can get them for $220 now through that, but I would recommend eBay. Now, as I said, we're going to be looking at the performance of this card today, so let's get into those. Now, for the system, we do have an Intel Core i5 4670K. This is actually overclocked to 4.2 GHz, which is a decent mid-range processor and is going to give you a good idea of performance without any bottlenecks. For the RAM, we've got 16 gigs of DDR3 1600 MHz RAM, pretty standard stuff. And for the graphics card, as I said, it is an EVGA superclocked model, which is 4 gigs. Now, for the first benchmark we're going to be taking a look at is actually Battlefield 1. Now, Battlefield 1 is quite a recent game. It's very popular, and that is going to give you a good idea of performance of the card. So, as you can see here, we're actually at ultra settings, and for the minimum FPS we're getting around 59. That is pretty good. We're kind of at the 60 range, average 70, and max is 97. Now, obviously that's good for a 60Hz monitor. If you've got 120Hz or anything like that, you're still going to be seeing those extra frames, but would more suit this card to 60Hz nowadays. Now, for the next game we've got is PUBG. Now, PUBG is a very popular recent game, and I thought I'd test that so you all would know how that performs. Now, PUBG is kind of iffy at the moment due to the optimizations. However, in this benchmark we are playing at the high preset settings, so just high on the menu, and for a minimum FPS we got 22. Now, this obviously was very rare, but that is the minimum that was recorded by Fraps. Now, for the average we got 57, bang on that 60Hz mark, nice 60 FPS smooth gameplay, and that is very playable. Now, for the max we got 84. As I said, we didn't need it to go over 60 because obviously we had a 60Hz monitor. However, 84 is a very good representation of how this card runs. Now, you could run this on ultra, it's just you would expect your FPS to vary much more. Now, for the next game we have Overwatch. Now, Overwatch obviously is a very popular game at the moment, and it is really easy to run. However, I wanted to show you some FPS numbers. Now, for Overwatch we're playing at the ultra preset, quite an easy game to run at 1080p, just like all the other games. For a minimum FPS we got 52, it's perfect, didn't dip below around about 60. Average was 95 and max was 128 FPS. Now, again, if you are on a 120Hz monitor or 144, Overwatch is perfect for that. You're going to see every frame. However, still at 60 you're going to have a perfectly smooth gameplay. Now, for the next game we have GTA 5. Now, while GTA 5 is an older game, it's still quite demanding on the graphics card. Obviously some say it's more CPU intensive, which it is, but gives us a good idea on how this is going to perform. Now, Grand Theft Auto on the max settings, mixture of high and very high, we did score very good FPS wise for a 60Hz experience. Now, for the minimum we got 45 FPS, average was 62 and max was 64. Now, I'm not sure if that was locked because it didn't go much above 64 and they're all within the same range ish, and but like I said, very playable experience for 60Hz. Now, this is something probably you'd expect on a 1060 also. Now, with the more VRAM wise, you wouldn't really benefit that much from that, but obviously GTA 5 does rely on that quite a lot. Now for the next game we have CSGO. Now while CSGO is really easy to run, thought I'd add it because, you know, we've got a lot of esports players and this is going to give you a really good idea on how these lighter games run. Now obviously we took it all the way up to max settings, it was easy to play, minimum FPS was 76. Now while that isn't a lot for esports, it only dipped a couple times, whereas the average was 140 FPS, which I'd say is more than playable. Especially if you do have a 144Hz monitor or anything like that, you're going to easily be able to hit those you know, max refresh rates. Now for max, we've got 294 FPS. Obviously people on CSGO love the higher the better, so that is great for this card. Now for the final game, now while it isn't played too much, I thought I'd include it as it's going to give you a really good idea of how the newer Call of Duty World War II is going to perform. Now this is Modern Warfare Remastered. We're playing on basically max settings here at high FXAA on 1080p. Scored a minimum FPS of 54, again 60 Hz. Average is 84 and our max being 92. Now these are all very good ranges for max settings, and it's going to show you that, you know, this, your Call of Duty World War II is going to be able to run on this card, and it gives you kind of a good idea of how the engine runs. Now that's it for this video. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you found these results helpful and it kind of gave you a good idea on whether you should get the card or not. And if it didn't, maybe post down in the comments below how I could improve, or if you have any questions, post them down below too. If you want any FPS specific games like benchmarks, do post that down in the comments. I will try and get back to you if I have that game. Now like I said, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.